He's John Smoltz, Major League Baseball Network analyst and part-time college basketball analyst. How's your bracket, John?
Well, a couple things. Bracket was doing really well. I was concerned in the beginning because I did my bracket from Australia, and I thought it was a little bit of a back to the future. I thought I was going to know the results before I did it since we were a day ahead, but that was not true. So I still felt good until basically the worst day in the state of Michigan history happened on Sunday, where both the Wolverines and the Spartans went down. So I should have known better. My wife is from University of Florida. Probably if I would have done the right thing and had them in his championship over my Spartans, but, I couldn't do that. So
Keep your head up, all right?
I'm going to do my best, but it was a little rough, I'll be honest, filling out a bracket in Australia, even though that's a great place.
So you were down there for opening day, part one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have any problem with opening day in Australia?
When I first found out about it, I thought like a player first and then an analyst second, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to work, but it was unbelievable. I think baseball was a big win there. They had their fingers crossed, I'm sure. The players, once they got accustomed to just everything that it brought, I think it's like this. You're probably a little frustrated when you find out, and then you'll never forget that opening day experience as a player. I don't care how many you go through,
but
that'll be one you'll never forget.
Why not have a couple of spring training games there?
And that was the thought that both teams had, but they felt that there was no way to create the excitement, I guess, for a country that is starting to grasp baseball a little bit. Baseball's popular there. It's just not. It's not in their top three because they don't get to watch it. So
but if they're just learning, then they're not going to know the difference between a regular season and a spring training game.
Well, no, I think they would.
Oh, okay.
But I think the big thing is, I had even heard if they had it in Melbourne, there would have been 100,000 people there at their stadium that holds 100,000.
And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with exporting our game, but not opening day.
No, and I hear. I mean, it's a tough argument either way. Obviously the Dodgers came out of there 2-0, but one will. We'll never know the plane flights and whether or not that had anything to do in the lag of really starting the season and then spring training. But I can tell you this: it was really a neat experience, and every player that I had talked to really enjoyed the opportunity once they got over there to experience everything that trip was about.
Does Clayton Kershaw? Do you pitch differently? Consciously, subconsciously, when you're getting paid? Well, you even play differently. Mike Trout with the new deal, Cabrera the new deal. How does that affect you when you're telling yourself that I'll be the same person, the same player, the same pitcher?
Yeah, it's impossible not to. You say all the right things, and you do the things you're supposed. It's impossible not to. I mean, you're getting a contract that is first and foremost nothing you could have comprehended, and for Clayton Kershaw. His mindset's so great that I don't know that he will be affected. But it's impossible not to. I mean, the expectations go through the roof, even though that you've exceeded expectations as a player is the reason you got that contract. So, I had the fortune for 21 hours to be the highest paid player in the history of the game. 21 hours. And I was glad that I was relieved of that duty by Roger Clemens in a short period of time, because it's really it's.
What were you making?
I think $8 million.
What is it like? Okay, when you get a paycheck, what were you making every 2 weeks, or did you get paid once a month?
No, it was every 2 weeks. And what? You're probably not going to believe this. But I never saw a paycheck, a direct deposit every single time. So,
did you go to the ATM and just print it out and laugh?
No,
you didn't.
No. I got to tell you the funny story of when I first got my first big contract. It was 4 years, $4 million a year, and the paper read $16 million man. So my family wanted me to go to get the papers at like a 7-Eleven. I said, I don't want to go get the papers. I'm on the cover. He says, no, you need to go get it. So I go with my kids in the minivan, and I pull up at a 7-Eleven. I put 4 Sunday papers on the counter, and I reach in my pockets, and I got my wallet's not in my pocket. So I go to the minivan. I forgot my wallet. Well, everyone's got that change drawer. So I take out the quarters, nickels, and dimes, and I'm counting them on the counter to get enough coins for the paper. And some kid is behind me with his dad going, "Hey, Dad, I thought that guy was rich."
You're asking your children for money here.
Straight humble pie. And to this day, I'll never forget it.
He's John Smoltz, Major League Baseball Network, future Hall of Famer, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Fans gave Ryan Braun a standing ovation in Milwaukee.
Yeah, interesting. At times, definitely heals a lot of wounds. I thought when we covered this last year, it was going to be not only countrywide. I mean, wherever he goes, that's not going to be obviously the approach the fans take. But Milwaukee is a city that loves its sports, and obviously time has healed that, and they're looking for his athletic talents to once again win over the city, and it did the first game.
But you have to root for him. He's yours.
Yes,
You're stuck with him. So it's not one of those where, I don't know, you're going to sit on your hands there. I think you're going to go, okay.
No, but I think at the time, and here's the interesting thing about it, had he been able to, he did disappear, but at the time, there was a lot of, and this is a city that's not as hardcore as some of the others. There's a lot of people that were offended by what he did and the explanations they had to give their kids, I think. But the time has healed that, and spring training he did and said all the right things, which you knew he would, given this opportunity this next time around. Because really what he's trying to do is prove that his mistakes were just that, and his talents will be right back where they needed to be, and it'll be a blip on the radar screen. But for everybody else in baseball and those who cover it, not so fast. We've seen the history of that so far.
Yeah, I think this is all media-driven. I think it's the media asking for a do-over because, we didn't do well the first time around with performance-enhancing drugs. So I think the fans are kind of apathetic to it. They're like, all right, well, whatever. The Giants fans love Bonds. As long as you produce, Yankee fans loved A-Rod. And then all of a sudden, A-Rod started slumping. They loved Andy Pettitte. They love Roger Clemens. Hey, you're cheating. You're ours. But if you're not, playing well, then we want you out of here.
No doubt, that's almost the definition of sports, and the cliff's pretty big for those who fall off of it, and don't do the things as you mentioned. Then it gets to the other side worse, meaning there's no room for error. I mean, every doubt, second guessing. I mean, that's the nature of some of the decisions some of the guys have made, so you're absolutely right.
These big contracts, though. Miguel Cabrera's contract, look, I know he's a great hitter, maybe the best in the game. I don't want to spend that kind of money. Justin Verlander with a pitcher, even Clayton Kershaw. I like Kershaw because I think he's more of a pitcher than a thrower, but you're already seeing where, I think he's going on the disabled list here. So a Trout deal, I think, is spectacular for the Angels. I think they got a bargain there. But these guys, if you're in your 30s, I'll keep you around for a couple of years, maybe 5 years. But nobody's going to the Barry Bonds Fountain of Youth anymore. So I can't sign up these guys long term like that.
I'll tell you what's going to be very interesting, and I agree with you. And it's not because of not experiencing what it's like to get up in the latter part of your years. I mean, the length of contract for pitchers is awfully pretty scary and risky from the standpoint of the trend that we're dealing with. But, if anyone deserves to be the highest paid pitcher, no doubt Clayton Kershaw. And then these position players that will go well beyond. I think what they're doing is, look, this is their opportunity to maximize a 7-year deal out of a 10-year deal. And that's what I think the owners are hoping. Because historically the last 2 or 3 years, you're not going to get that kind of production. So it's they say football's a copycat league, but I think you could really say that about baseball. I mean, now you're seeing a reverse trend of what John Hart used to do in Cleveland and tying up a lot of players through the arbitration years. Yeah. I think you're starting to see that again with the core players on the front end getting a way better deal, and that the owners are thinking, teams are thinking at the back end of a young player, we're going to get the best end of that deal if they continue to contribute at the rate they were.
Good to visit with you, John.
Yeah, same here, and I'm going to do better next year on the bracket, I promise you.
Well, you're going to pick Michigan State. I could already fill out your bracket.
No. This was I was doomed when everybody else picked them.
I agree. I said, the media's never this right about something. When everybody was picked Michigan State, I go, oh, they can't win.
Yeah, that was tough. I found out about that like 6 days later when I got back from Australia.
Thank you, John.